The Lanterns of Evershade. Lena found herself standing at the edge of a vast, shadowed forest. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their gnarled branches twisting into the dark sky. Yet, in spite of the looming darkness, the air was warm, scented with something familiar, like fresh rain on earth or the faint perfume of old books. She had never been here before, or at least she didn't think she had. Her mind was clouded, as if she had just woken up, though her eyes had never closed. Beneath her feet, the ground was soft, and as she took her first step into the forest, the shadows parted to reveal a winding path of crushed stone, lit by thousands of lanterns hanging from the trees. The lanterns glowed softly, casting pools of warm light that made the trees seem to dance in the quiet night. They were odd lanterns, round, like small moons, but without flames. Instead, they shimmered with a light that seemed to pulse from within, shifting between colors: gold, violet, teal, and pale blue. Each lantern seemed to hum a different tune, soft and melodic, like a distant lullaby that no one had sung for centuries. Lena was drawn forward, her footsteps echoing strangely on the stone path. The further she walked, the more she felt as though the lanterns were watching her, their light following her movements and their melodies growing softer, like whispers. She wasn't sure how long she had been walking, but it felt like hours. There was no sense of time in this forest. It was as if the world outside this place didn't exist. No sun, no moon, no clocks. Just the lanterns, glowing, shifting in rhythm with her breath. And then she saw them. Up ahead, the path split into two, and standing at the intersection was a figure. At first, it seemed like a shadow, but as she drew closer, the figure took shape. A woman, tall and graceful, her face pale like porcelain, with hair that flowed like liquid silver down her back. She wore a gown that shimmered faintly, the fabric shifting like the night sky above. Her eyes were dark, almost black, but when Lena looked into them, she saw 1,000 reflections of herself, her hopes, her fears, her quietest desires, her sharpest regrets. Lena stopped at the intersection, unsure whether to approach. The woman didn't speak at first. She just stood there, waiting. "Where am I?" Lena asked, her voice soft but carrying in the stillness. "You are in the forest of Evershade," the woman replied, her voice like the rustling of leaves. "A place between worlds, between memories, between moments. It is where the forgotten things live." "The forgotten things?" Lena repeated. "What do you mean?" The woman's lips curled into the smallest of smiles, and she gestured to the path ahead.
"Come.
I will show you." Lena followed her down the path, the ground growing cooler beneath her feet, the lanterns glowing brighter, their colors now more vivid than ever. They passed strange sights along the way: whispering stones that hummed with ancient words, trees whose branches swayed even though there was no wind, and pools of water that reflected the stars, though no sky could be seen above. Eventually, they came upon a clearing where the lanterns hung in the air, glowing in an intricate pattern, like constellations come to life. In the center of the clearing was a great, stone basin filled with water as still as glass. At the edge of the basin stood a figure, a man, his back to Lena, dressed in dark robes. His hair was long, silver like the woman's, and his hands were gently placed upon the stone rim of the basin. "This," the woman said, her voice low, "is the keeper of the lost." Lena approached the basin and saw what lay within it. The water rippled, though there was no breeze to stir it. Beneath the surface, memories floated like faint, glowing orbs. Faces, moments, fragments of conversations. There was one of a child's laughter, another of a far-off landscape, and another of a voice calling her name from long ago. Each memory drifted gently, each one pulsing with soft light. "These are the memories that have been forgotten," the woman explained. "Things once cherished, now lost in time. Some people forget them because they have moved on. Others forget because they never knew they were important." Lena leaned closer to the water. A face surfaced in the ripples, one she hadn't seen in years. Her grandmother. She remembered how her grandmother used to sing her lullabies when she was a little girl, but it had been so long. The memory felt distant, fading, like a dream slipping from her grasp. "Why are you showing me this?" Lena asked, her voice trembling. "What does it mean?" The keeper turned then, and Lena felt an odd chill run through her. His eyes were not kind, but not cruel either. They were knowing, as though he had seen every choice she had ever made, and every one she had not. He spoke softly, but his words carried the weight of centuries. "Some things are forgotten because they hurt too much to remember," he said. "But some things are forgotten because we let them go. We don't need them anymore, and yet they still haunt us. You've come here because you've forgotten something important, something you've let go of. What is it?" Lena swallowed. She didn't know the answer. But as she stood there, gazing into the basin, the realization began to settle within her. It wasn't one memory, but a collection. Pieces of herself, of her childhood, her dreams, her loves, that she had abandoned, believing they no longer served her. The woman reached out, her touch light as a breeze. "The lanterns will show you the way back. But you must choose. Will you take what you've lost and carry it forward? Or will you leave it here, to be forgotten forever?" Lena's heart ached. She could feel the weight of all the choices she had made, all the things she had let go. She looked into the basin again, at the memories, at the faces and moments that had shaped her, and then, slowly, she stepped back. "I don't want to forget," she whispered. "Not completely." The woman smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "Then remember, child. But you must leave something behind, too." Lena closed her eyes and nodded. As she opened them, the forest around her began to fade, the lanterns dimming. The keeper, the woman, and the basin all vanished, leaving only the winding path before her. She was no longer in Evershade, but the memory of it lingered, like a dream that stayed just long enough to be remembered. When Lena awoke, she felt lighter, like something heavy had been lifted from her chest. The morning sun was shining through her window, and outside, birds sang their familiar song. But as she rose, she noticed something new on her desk, a small, glowing lantern shimmering softly in the morning light.